Your work session is in session, Madam Chair.
Okay. And should we put the time on the record? I don't have my watch on. What time is it? Oh, it's 4:04. Okay, the work session is beginning at 4:04.
So, for your work session, we're going to be reviewing the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Okay? And this should look very familiar because you've done this before. And the codes are the same. Obviously, the ballots are going to be different. The buckets are the same, and the dividers are the same. So this is going to look very much the same. So the first set of reject codes that we've got, it's D1 on the spreadsheet. And there's one ballot where a voter voted a voided ballot package. The voter also voted his regular ballot package. So he got a replacement. This was his original package. It was voided. He got a replacement. He voted the replacement. So that's why this one is in your void. And we list both of the ballot package IDs on the document, on the envelope there.
So he really voted two.
He did vote twice. We don't consider it as voted twice because he didn't go to an ABC. They're both his ballot. But for some reason or other, he was either not at an address or he didn't get it in time or something happened.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is just as it is intact then?
Yes, we don't open those envelopes.
Yeah. That's still sealed and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, one.
Okay. The next category that's on the list is E1. Ballot returned without return envelope, unable to identify voter. There are 3 ballots in this category. And these are the 3 ballots. These 2 were in the drop box at LUSAC, and I don't know where this one was. Someone didn't put anything identifying on it, but the voters just dropped it in the drop box at the LUSAC in the security envelopes. And we can't count those because we don't know who voted them. And of course, it has to be a qualified registered voter that voted the ballots, and they have to get credit for it on the voter register.
Okay. And we had some of these before.
We did. We had more. So this is really good news that our education greatly reduced this. Amy, did you put something on the drop boxes this time?
I think it has on the Dropbox already, and so maybe people are reading it more. It was already on there about use your envelope, sign your envelope.
Okay. Okay. Let's see.
It's kind of sad, but that's how it is. Yeah, those are the rules.
The next category, we have quite a few. This is voter failed to provide identifying information. As you can see in the description, it says this code is used when it is determined that the voter failed to provide ID at, it should say, an ABC, or failed to provide an identifier such as a voter number, last 4 digits of social security or birth. This is different in a vote by mail election. What happened in this election is these voters have a code of ID, and that means ID is required. These voters most likely registered to vote online, and they're registered to vote, but no one has checked their ID. So when we process the ballots, these voters got instructions, so their instruction was different than the instruction that we got. It says ID required. It says you must provide a photocopy of ID when you return this ballot. And then all of these voters also got a letter that said you have to provide ID. So the good news is it looks like they're probably new registered voters, but they haven't provided ID, so we can't count these ballots. And there's 24 of those. And you asked about opening. All of these ballots were opened to make sure that ID wasn't included in them, and they've been resealed so that they're not open now, but there's 24 of those.
So what sort of ID would they include in that ballot?
You can, we tell them it's any ID that's authorized by the state. I can show you the sample letter
pass
that
them
goes
down.
to them. It's driver's license, passport, voter ID. So any ID that you would accept as an election worker at a polling location is acceptable ID.
So,
Are they going to have a chance to re-vote at some point? Do you send them a letter that said this happened?
Yeah.
What happens?
Okay, so that's two questions. Sorry. Okay, answer to first question, they already got a letter.
Oh.
The code requires us to notify them within 3 days that they have an opportunity to cure. And there were a lot more. That bucket was full. And those voters have been notified, and we've had voters coming in every day with various types of ID. They either mail it in or they bring it in, and they just bring in a copy of the ID or show us the ID. So that was one question. If the commission votes to reject these ballots because of lack of ID, they're going to get another letter. Your ballot did not count because you did not provide ID, and there's no further opportunity to cure because we've got to certify the election.
However, is the letter going to tell them what they need to do again or not in the future? Is this also applicable for the state election now?
So, tricky question.
It is, and
because so here is how I'm going to answer that. Is their status? So the status for these voters hasn't changed because
For the state or for the muni?
for the state, the condition code is a state code. So for these voters, ID is still required. If they vote in this primary or go to vote in the general, they're going to have to provide ID because the state doesn't have a record of it. Now, for the voters that had ID required, we're providing the info to the state, but obviously it's not going to be updated in time for the primary.
So my question then, what if, let's say one of these was me, I'll just use myself
Okay.
as an example. So if I applied for an absentee ballot, I'm leaving tonight to go out of town, let's say I'd applied for an absentee ballot, and
Several of these are
was the state going to also inform me that I needed some type of ID?
Absolutely, because it's the state's code, and the state has your status is ID. So yes, when you get your absentee ballot, it's going to have an instruction in it that says you must provide a photocopy of the following type, one of the following types of ID.
For some reason, I don't remember this in the regular muni election in April.
Did you know what? It wasn't an issue in the muni election. And the reason it is an
Okay,
issue...
that makes more sense because I'm beginning to think, where was I that I didn't hear this?
It wasn't an issue because we believe that this is a result of PFD voter registration. So PFD people are registered based on PFD, but they need to provide ID.
Well, you answered my question then, because I was beginning to think that where was I?
No.
I mean, I thought, well, maybe I missed something, because I don't remember this coming up
So-
before.
Is this going to be a recurring problem then?
I anticipate it will be.
Oh, gosh.
I have a question. What if they provide a driver's license or something like that? It wouldn't be able to be an original. It would have to be a certified copy.
It doesn't have to be certified.
Just a picture.
So remember, like when, in fact, when someone comes to you at the polling location, you check ID. Do you write checked ID in the register?
Well,
there's a box.
There's a
do,
column there, yeah.
Okay.
And it depends. There are 3 columns. And a personally known ID or voter registration card.
Okay. So you check that.
Yeah.
But it's not a certified copy. It's your election worker. It's based on your election worker oath. And so we trust
But
you.
you've seen it.
So people come in the door here and they got a letter from us and they show us their ID and we accept that ballot.
Well, I voted today and they asked for my ID,
Of course.
because I'm leaving, like I said, I'm leaving town, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but they didn't take a copy of it and it's
No.
not a certified copy.
Okay.
But we're not seeing that actual, whatever they include in here. They're not sending their actual driver's license or whatever in here.
Just a copy.
Just a copy.
Just a copy. It's just a photocopy.
And how did the system know to flag these then?
So, in the system, people are the various voter categories. RG is registered, so most of us are going to all be RG. LM is list maintenance. Those are the people that haven't voted for a long time. PU is the people on the purged list. PN is purge notice. IA is inactive. ID is ID required. So what happens is the system is programmed so that K&H sent different instructions. Any voter that has status ID got a different set of instructions. And then when it comes through the mail sorter, it outsorts. Everything with ID outsorts.
Okay.
And then they go to the review and resolution team. They open every single one, check for ID. All of the ones that had ID, then we set the ID aside and then processed it through the system. It was ready to go through the system then because we received the ID.
So off of the top of your head, how many came in without an ID and how many responded to the letters that were sent out?
Oh boy, I don't have that number.
I mean, are we talking hundreds? Are we talking? No. Okay.
I think total there was probably 100.
Just curious. I mean, I know I'm putting you on the spot because
We had a lot of walk-ins and mail-in cures. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
Even.
I guess that's mine, huh?
Yes.
No, that's okay. I was just wondering if it was, in the scope of things, hundreds or whatever, so.
Cindy, did you know we could pull those 2 clipboards that have those, because the pink ones are the ones, yeah, thanks. Okay, the next category is M. And M is for multiple ballots in one envelope. So we have one, and it's got 2 names at the top. They admittedly included 2. They actually both signed the envelope. And then this one had 2 ballots in one secrecy sleeve, but it was already separated here on the table. So we were not able to identify these voters. We don't know who this was. But they can't count. One voter got credited for voting, but it's still, both of them can't count. And then these 2, the voter will be notified that her ballot won't count. And we did call that voter, and she didn't. We spoke to her, but we needed to speak to the other voter and get this resolved. And they didn't call us back.
So this was a mother and son.
Correct.
So they put 2 ballots in one envelope.
Signed it twice, both of them signed it.
I wonder what they did with the other envelope.
Right, and the dilemma is it was put in a Dropbox.
I was just,
So-
you took the words out of my mouth because I was just going to say
Exactly.
there's no stamp
No
on here.
stamp, yeah.
There's no stamp
It
on
doesn't
here.
make any sense.
No stamp. And
Sounds
even
like
though they both signed it, we cannot accept it.
We cannot. Because you can only vote your envelope. And so what happened was when our staffer called and needed to talk to the son. And the son, the mother said the son wasn't here and would not call back. And so that, it was just a problem. We had to speak to the son.
No, she
So
Because
did the son
otherwise-
get a letter then as well?
He did not.
could have been somebody else that voted for that and not the son.
It could have been, exactly.
And especially since you'd made those 2 attempts and no response.
Strange.
So you left a
shame.
message with the mother to tell the mother to have the son
We
call?
actually spoke to the mother.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Yeah, we
You left
spoke
a
to-
message with the
and
mother to have
asked
the
her-
son, have the son.
Yes,
So is her ballot going to count or no?
her ballot will not count because we don't know which is hers.
And it's her envelope. I mean, her name is on the
Yeah.
envelope, because they were pre-printed on there, if you notice that. Wow.
Well, I noticed that a lot of these have come in without witness signature on them. Is that required?
Witness signature is not required.
Okay.
Yeah, this could have been just anybody.
Yeah, that one, you know,
never mind, okay.
we just we didn't notice it until after it was separated, and there's no way to go back. We've got a stack of envelopes, and we just couldn't figure out which one it went to.
Got the cover sheet in here with.
Yeah.
Here.
And this one was open to verify there were 2 in there. Okay. All right.
Our next one is one of our big categories. This is postmarked after Election Day. And how many do I have there? Oops.
Says 58.
I think it should be, I'm going to
58.
change that number, it should be 78.
Wow.
So these are the postmarked too late. There's a stack of 50 and then a stack of 28. And
Okay.
those ones all have a postmark on them. There's the next 2 categories are the ones that don't have postmarks or they're unclear. And these ones are all pretty clear that they're postmarked too late.
Okay, so
What was the date of the election again? Since I didn't vote in it.
August 7th.
7th. It's hard to remember that when you didn't vote.
Read this. Did you read that on that postcard?
yeah, it's 8.
Is it an 8?
Yeah.
Oh, there, okay. It's this number. Jeez.
It is difficult to see.
And these people will be notified that their ballot didn't count? Ooh, I'm sorry, I forgot to turn my phone off.
These are all on the 8th. I wonder if they drop these in after the postal pickup time.
Probably. And they were told
Because they're all on the 8th.
I only had one on the 8th, mine are all after that.
these are.
So they're
all
after the
I've got
day
a few
after.
on the 9th. 9th. 9th.
And some of them are postmarked from out of town.
These are all English. What a shame.
The group that I have are postmarked all the way up to August 16th, which is quite a long time frame after the election.
Oh, wait a minute.
Well, where were
This
they
one,
mailed from?
Joyce, this one's postmarked the 6th.
Well, we'll have to take a look and see if we can see that.
Here, I'll pass it back to you.
I might go all the way up to the 16th.
Maybe I missed something.
It does say August 6th.
Yay, good. Wenatchee, somewhere in Wenatchee it's August 6th, and Anchorage it's August 9th. So that will be, we'll just set that one aside and then we'll subtract that from the total.
Okay, here, you want to look for those?
Well, some of these postmarks are darn hard to read.
Nifty way to put the I voted.
Okay. Aberration. Okay, just because.
No, when you're done, Suzanne, we'll have one other person, either
Okay.
Glennis or myself, will look at them.
Yeah. Sure. That's not the one I just handed you, is it, Glenn?
Go ahead.
We've gone through these.
And I already looked through these.
Okay.
Oh, you did go through those already?
Yeah.
I
Okay,
just
good.
went through those.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so these
Is
have been
this the
through
one I just
twice?
handed you before?
I think so.
Well, then we're done.
We're done, okay? So I went through two
Okay,
sets, okay.
so now, on category number
Do we need to change that
W,
to 77?
77.
You saw why that.
Okay, so I'm going to back up.
No, that one that we caught, it was marked on the 6th down there, but it was marked the 8th here. That's probably why.
That's what Barbara, you
Why
missed
we
that, Barbara
missed
said
it,
that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back. The stuff that Cindy brought to us, your question concerned category G. And you wanted to know how many voters total there were. And what I have is that there were 13 other voters that got letters that said you have to provide ID, and 13 people did provide ID in that category.
Okay.
Okay, so the next category is no postmarks received after Election Day. And you can see the date stamped on, the date that we received it is stamped on the back.
Okay. So we received one on the 13th and one on the 17th, and the election was on the 7th, so that's quite a big
Way late.
time frame between
I
those
say
two.
that that's no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the next two are in this new category that was created where we would contact the post office. And so Cindy contacted the post office on these. This one came from Germany. It was received yesterday. And then the post office says it was processed in Anchorage on August 15th, but he cannot determine when it entered the United States from another country. So but there's no postmark that we can see from the other country. That's the Germany one. And then this one is really kind of interesting. We couldn't tell what the postmark was. It looks like OD to me. But he did look at this one and said that from his information, it went through Billings, Montana on August 9th.
Okay. Okay. This is the Germany one? So is it saying that it was processed in Billings, Montana on the 9th? That's what I am reading it. I mean, that's what it says on our equipment in Billings, Montana on August
So then it
9th,
was way late.
which is after August 7th.
I mean, I spelled her name correctly. Huh, I didn't realize that Margaret was out of the country. I know her.
I mean, it notice it did say priority on there too.
Yeah,
which
I
is-
noticed that.
Yeah.
It'd be good if when we answered it, we would spell their name properly.
I guess they were more interested in the envelope versus the
Yeah.
the name.
Her name is Margaret Engel, I know her. Not Angel. There you go. Yeah. She's one of UAA professors, or was. She retired.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right. So the next category is on our next page. It's voter failed to sign ballot return envelope. And we have 8 of those here. These envelopes have been opened because we have learned that sometimes voters sign somewhere inside on the security envelope or the instructions are on the ballot itself. And it's been double checked by 2 workers that none of these have a signature inside. And so there are 8 in that category. There are 3 in the next category with no match. And I wanted to let you know ahead of time, because you asked this question regarding the cure letters. Cindy provided me the information on the cure letters. We sent an additional, so there are these 11, there's 8 and 3 more coming, but we sent an additional 72 letters to people regarding no reference signature, those went directly to the state, no signature, no sig match, and 72 were cured.
Okay, now pass those on.
That's outstanding.
Okay, so this is with no signature.
So the system is working.
Yes.
Wonderful.
I don't think you're ever going to get away with not a couple that coming through that don't sign. It's unfortunate, but it's,
The category that's similar to that is that the signature didn't match. And what I did provide is, I'll put these together for you so they're with each envelope. I printed the signature on file so you can see the signature on file. And again, this was double checked. You know, our signature review team is really good. And these voters did get a letter that their signature doesn't match, and I don't think that there's any way we can accept these signatures because they do not match.
okay, I'll pass them down after I look at them.
Thank you.
Oh my. Even the tail.
Not even remotely.
That's not even close.
So what is this down here?
That is a household signature.
Oh,
It's not
thank you.
relevant. So the only signature that's relevant is the top
Okay,
signature, I'm sorry.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
it's not the
Yeah.
same first
No.
name, and I was beginning to
Yeah.
wonder if I wasn't, okay.
So the system allows us to look at household signatures so that if a husband and wife or mother and father or someone swapped envelopes in error, then we can still approve those.
Now, that was a PFD one, what is this one?
Good heavens.
Where is this one from, Barbara? The
Oh,
writing is
this-
so tiny, I can hardly read it.
I can't, I
I mean,
don't
what is
know.
this?
That is from the Fluent system. That was the only way. That is our system. The signature was incorporated from either PFD or somewhere from the state of Alaska.
Okay,
But
so
that
that's
is
what
the-
I was, okay,
That is the signature on file in the box.
okay.
I'd be going Sunday. National
Okay.
Sewer. No, no way.
Thank you. Looks like a kindergarten I got holiday.
It looks like, kind of like the first one we got with it, somebody failed.
Sure. No match.
Okay.
All right. I think we have one category left. Ballots
Nope.
voted by someone other than voter.
No, we have two.
No, we have some on the last page.
Oh, on the
as
last
well.
page, I was skipping ahead, huh?
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry.
Actually, seven.
Last one on this page, I'll say that. So, as you can see, the return address, name, and the signature are not the name of the voter on the return envelope. The person who voted the ballot is not a registered voter in this district, so we can't count it.
Wow. It takes some gumption.
That's rather interesting.
That person got a letter also,
I believe so.
a cure
Just
letter.
a second.
Yeah.
I believe so.
I mean, the person whose ballot it was should get a letter
Yeah.
stating that somebody else voted their ballot.
Maybe it was a house sitter.
Yes, he got a letter.
Thank you.
Okay.
How about a warning?
Well, no, the voter, the one
voter-
whose ballot
yeah.
it was got a letter.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't tell who Mudge was that did this one.
So what's happening to the person who did fill out and vote?
That's
the
what I
ballot?
meant.
Well, we could send him a letter. I guess we could send them both a letter and say your ballot didn't count because we don't show that you're a qualified registered voter in this election.
Yeah.
He jeopardized that person's ballot.
So Brett got a letter though.
Yes, he did.
I don't wanna
On-
use last
actually,
names, so-
Yeah, actually, and it was early. It was like on July 30th that he got a letter, so there
Okay.
was still time to vote.
All right.
Yeah.
That was a nice catch.
So in the regular election, you had registered outside of the MOA was a reject category. Since this was just a district election, District 3, there were some people that voted in this election that were not registered in District 3. So there were 5 of those voters, and then there was one voter, the voter, let's see. I'm going to put this voter in the back, and this voter is a little bit different. It has an OOD, out of district T, after it, and that's the category right below that. What happened is this voter did register in the district, but it was too late. It was after the state's cutoff of 30 days. So we're going to let her know these people are going to end up registered in the district based on this question ballot. She's registered in the district. She just was too late for this election. So those are for your review.
And these individuals voted where?
Here at the Accessible Vote Center at the Election Center. And they weren't on the register when the workers pulled them up to give them a ballot. So they had to vote a question ballot.
But the addresses that they have on there are in the
district.
correct district.
The addresses are in the district. And so then what we do, the address is in the district, and they say they've lived there for 30 days. So then we go and we check VREMS, the State of Alaska's voter registration election management system, and then we see where they're registered in VREMS. So I think you can see the boxes on the right-hand side there indicate that's our workers' information. And it indicates that VREM says that they're registered in which district, and then the voter says they're residing in a different district. Now, if in the regular election, sometimes that doesn't matter, because you could be residing in one precinct and voting in another precinct, but the ballot is exactly the same. But in this situation, these people were not in the district. And again, that's based on the State of Alaska's information.
So this will go over to the state and they'll be registered for November
Correct.
for the state election.
That is correct. So it'll be like an address update for them. So they'll end up having to vote a question ballot probably in the primary, because it won't be updated in time.
It won't.
The one voter will, but the others voters won't.
See if there's no signature available.
Huh. Question.
Yes.
One of these said no reference signature available. Is that going to get corrected at some point?
It says there no. That's all right. No reference
Up at the top
signature.
where it says for office use. Doesn't look like they've been registered anywhere. It says it wasn't on the precinct register, and then there's no signature available. So.
Oh, wait a minute, give me that one. Does it say, or does it say registered or resides?
Yeah, I read something
Doesn't
wrong.
matter.
Well, I'm kind of on a hierarchy, and so in this case, we didn't get the signature, we made a based on residence.
Right.
So the state really is going to look at this.
So this one moved, so
So,
it'll go to the new. It'll be changed.
Here's what happens is, is that person registered in another precinct?
It didn't say so.
Doesn't say
Yes,
that.
yes, registered in a different precinct.
Okay, so they're registered, and so unless they're a brand new person that registered like with PFD online, of course, they might not have a reference signature on file. But if they're a person like us who's been registered forever but just moved, then yes, there is a reference signature on file because it
Oh,
probably
okay.
is on
I get it.
microfiche. But it's not
I understand
it's
that.
not electronic, and so that's why we had such a good number of cures. Is the state is looking up those reference signatures. They're going to DMV. They're going to PFD. They're finding those signatures. So that'll be something that'll wash out. But Cindy's right. It just, you never get to it because
Okay.
they're not in the district.
He's smart.
So now we are really at the last two. And these ones were kind of unusual because a voter can request to be removed from the voter rolls, but we've never had a situation where someone else has asked the voter to be removed from the voter rolls. So we've just provided these to the state of Alaska, and it's up to the state whether to remove them. This one is from someone who has a power of attorney that says to remove this person, and this one is from a spouse. And neither ballot was voted, so it doesn't matter that, because there's nothing to count, even if, so the decision is really up to the state.
So there were no marks on either ballot.
You can take a look at the ballots. There
Okay.
were marks. In fact, this person wrote all over the ballot that this person isn't going to vote, and the other, so they were both different. So
Oh.
if you just look at that one, Joyce, it's
one
open.
that's
She just
open.
wrote right on it.
Okay. Okay.
So how do you, so the state is going to make a decision about how to handle that then?
Correct.
Okay.
Because POA cannot do anything to do with voting. Am I correct? Power of attorney.
You know, it can do some things like request an absentee ballot, but it can't vote it. So,
Okay.
you know,
Conscious vote. Vote your conscience. Must be unconscious.
I don't know.
And I know they're not supposed to sign the person's name.
Conscientiously, he means, I think.
Yeah.
But we can't correct their grammar.
Conscience. Consciously vote.
oh,
We think he means conscientiously.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that when I read that.
Yes, the English teacher.
At least we hope so.
Yeah.
Sorry.
okay.
Now we have to change that total, right?
Okay, that's it. We can go ahead and change that total. It'll be 113. And
That ballot will be counted. It got put somewhere to be counted.
it's right here,
Okay.
ready to be counted. And that's it for your work session, unless you have any other questions for us.
Nope, I don't at this point. Anybody else? The canvas is at 5:30, so we've got a little over, got about a half
Goodness.
hour.
So close the session.
Okay, and we can go ahead and close the session unless, can we take questions from the audience?
You may do whatever you would like, Madam Chair.
Isn't that at the public canvas?
I would assume that would be at the public canvas.
Any
Questions?
Questions?
from the audience?
I think that it's a work session, and your work session is to gather information. So you
Okay.
may gather whatever information it is that you choose.
Okay, Jean? Okay.
And I appreciate it, okay? My name is Eugene Carhaven. I represent myself and follow the public process. Public process is not a total decision made by the governing body, more like the public interest. I live in that City Valley. I really appreciate the chance to say what I'm about to say. And in that regard, too, is it was extremely difficult for me to hear you all. Two commissioners, I hardly was able to capture what was being said. And it's critical for you all to hear each other, what's said, and the public. And by me speaking right now, it was critical to bring them to your attention. Barbara Jones, respectfully, I was almost hearing everything she said with clarity. The only time was when you went to get to the envelopes, you were speaking in that direction, and then I got lost with what you were saying. And I didn't think you realized that was happening, and that's what happened. And with all due respect, please speak really louder, because I know there were comments going back and forth, and then the public needed to hear it, you needed to hear it, and it couldn't be heard. And then, just in reference to what I'm saying, the same subject, when you had the canvas meeting last election, even staff members from the Anchorage were saying, speak louder, we remember that was happening. And And so they didn't do it today. The one that was saying they knew I was having trouble hearing. But please speak loudly. And that's all I have to say.
Okay.
And accept that there should be a place for public comment. This is a meeting and a chance to speak. And that's it. And thank you very much for the chance. And with 1 minute and 17 seconds to spare.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay, we will close the work session and reconvene or convene at 5:30.